All right, y'all. Welcome to Street Church. Congregation, come on in. And to first time visitors, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, we got a topic today. It's about the origin of the coronavirus, COVID 19, and the unofficial, now official name for it that Trump gave it, which is the China virus, the Chinese virus coming from the Communist Party of China. We now know for a fact that it did come from a lab and that it is reported that the first three people to get the coronavirus were inside that WUHAN lab. They were the scientists inside that lab. You know, they listen, omission is a very evil thing. When you omit things on purpose, when you diminish things, when you deflect from the truth, it's more evil to me in a lot of ways than somebody doing evil right up in front, right, or in broad daylight, because they want to come with the truth now and let the truth out, right? They worked so hard for anybody who was doing videos back then. And listen, when it first happened, and they was saying the Wuhan market, but then they had to say that there was also a Wuhan lab in there, I automatically saw something in my spirit said it was man-made. And I told whoever would listen at the time that I could talk to, because we were all restricted, right, from our friends and our families for so long because of the lockdowns. But listen, think about how they took advantage of this, right? They want to come clean now because they know it does not matter, because they've already done what they needed to do. After they locked the citizens down, right? After they controlled the narrative, after they used it for elections, right? To steal elections, to steal power through elections, presidential elections, all kinds of other elections, right? Mayor and governor elections, right? That was a big election year. And after they did all of this, after they used it to mask the protesters and Antifa, right? Because, listen, there was a time where they showed this is how much they were in power. They were able to supply the protesters, right? There were U-Haul trucks, mysterious U-Haul trucks in parking lots, bricks, piles of bricks. One guy showed a video. I can't even think of. I didn't never get his name or anything. I saw a YouTube video where this dude was saying this stuff was laid out here for us to throw these bricks, for us to loot and destroy. The U-Haul trucks showed them going into U-Haul trucks and taking out shields and all kinds of handmade weapons, right? Crude weapons to keep on protesting, right? So-called protesting. To where they did all of this because this was our government and the powers that be that did this, right? They shut down any other, they shut down all the news about anything that did not fit the narrative that this coronavirus, that they couldn't control us, you know what I'm saying, through the coronavirus, COVID 19, whatever you want to call it, right? They used it for politics. They used it for power. They used it for money. They used it for personal gain. They used it to crush the competition that they had, the opposition to them, the opposing views, right? They were shutting down credible scientists and doctors who didn't agree with how to move forward during COVID because they wanted us controlled and locked down. They sent protesters and Antifa against us, against the middle class, the middle America. They wanted to destroy it. They was shutting down stores and locking it down, but they was keeping the weed shops open and people being able to buy liquor and things of that nature from supermarkets, right? Because, and then people, just all kinds of things, economically wise, they used the heck out of this COVID-19, this coronavirus, this China virus. And now they don't mind because the damage is done. They've already did what they did. Population control, another thing, population. Getting rid of people with underlying conditions. This thing was specifically targeting obesity and people with underlying conditions. And I think that whoever, the paper trail, wherever people who are recorded to be involved in this gain of function research that led to this outbreak, which I don't believe it anyway. I believe it was meant to be let loose. I believe that the scientists were forced to let it loose. I don't think it was an accident. I don't think it was an accident at all. I think the Chinese military was a part of that. And I believe that certain people in the United States of America and abroad, certain people with power were involved in it. Even our own government. Because when it came to whoever was in power at the time, gained more power from it. And now they want to come clean. Right? But it don't matter. The damage is already done. The damage is already done. People have lost their family members, their friends, and they just so cold-hearted. Most people wasn't even able to go to the funerals of their families and friends as they died. Wasn't even able to go see them at the hospital. To be there to comfort them. Man, there should be hell to pay. There should be heads on chopping blocks. People need to pay for this. People need to be locked up for this. People need to be locked up for this. People need to be locked up for this. It's wickedness on the highest level. It's evil on the highest level. It's satanic. It's demonic. It's evil. It's wicked. And this is street church. I'm going to just lay it all out. And I wouldn't care if YouTube striked me for this video and tried to say it was against community guidelines. It's out there for the world to see. Everybody was saying, when it mattered, people were already saying, this came out of that Wuhan lab. This came out of this, and they were shut down. So if you want to continue to go that route, YouTube, but I tell you what, you won't be on the right side of history if you try to strike down this video. This is somebody in your community, YouTube. You say that I'm in a community. I'm a partner. Here's a partner of yours saying this was evil, and you know it. And the thing about it is, the people, the head, the administration of YouTube, y'all have the information coming in right at your desk. Right at your desk. You're getting the information before I ever will see it. So if you strike me down, this ain't a community. I'm not a partner. Because as a partner, I'm telling my partner, YouTube, you ought to be doing channels on this. You ought to be doing videos on this. And you ought to be asking for your government, those who are in power, all the socialites, all the celebrities that you know, to start asking for answers and start to hold China accountable for either its malicious intent to spread the coronavirus or its mishandling of the gain of function research that they was doing. It's one or the other. It's either malicious intent that they already had this disease designed to go out here and do what it did, and they were in cahoots with the U.S. government or the people in the U.S. with power, right? That have something really to gain from this, who could seize the control that was put on us, or it was a mishandling in the lab, the Wuhan lab. But we know right now, for sure, that the first 3 people were 3 scientists to be infected with COVID-19, the coronavirus, aka the Chinese virus, the China virus. I won't even say Chinese, because Chinese would mean the actual nationality of people. I'm going to say the CPC virus, that party that has been controlling that country for the longest, that will not change over, right? It's not no fair elections there, because why am I still seeing the same people? The same person in the Communist Party, like they be lasting for 30 and 40 and 50 years in office. So they either has assassinated or die. And then after that, it seemed like whoever they groomed to take their place be the person that take over. It's a shame how these other countries are. And sadly, with the coming 24 election, and I'm not going to get really that far into it, it almost seemed like that's what's going to happen to us. That they're going to just find ways to control us, distract us, deflect from the truth, not allow us to really have fair elections anymore. I think fair elections are finna be gone in the United States of America. Because I don't think the election of 2020 was fair. I don't care about people saying rigged. I don't think it was fair. I don't care about rigged. You don't got to rig an election if you're not having a fair election. See what I'm saying? There's a difference between rigged and fairness. Fairness there was a lot of things that people would have voted differently on if the truth had came out. If there would have been honesty, if honest things would have came up, the truth would have came out, right? And this goes for the COVID-19. COVID-19 did a lot to sway the election in 2020. So this ain't about rigged. It's about fairness. It wasn't a fair election. It was very one-sided. It was COVID-19, the media, COVID-19 and the media and all the protesting and the confusion of the protesting went from it's about George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, to them just going around America to destroy it and to put fear into people. And I seen with my own eyes during that election, people were the poll watchers that was supposed to watch the polls weren't allowed to watch the polls. So that was unfair, right? So we talking about fairness. We ain't talking about rigged. We talking about fairness. I don't think it was fair. But you hear what I said? I said I don't think it was fair. And I'm seeing it with my own eyes in real time when it was going down. And I didn't think it was fair. And I think COVID-19 played a big part of it, being able to swing to one side and away from the other side, instead of it being a fair election with nothing to distract or deflect from the truth. which COVID did. Uh, any little freedom that was given to us then, that's what made people, that was the distraction. That was the deflection, right? We, they told us, gave us some freedoms here and they gave us some freedoms and they locked it down again when they thought that we were out and being able to move around. And then look how they locked the government down. They locked the government down. Look, you don't have access to City Hall. You don't have access to the Capitol. You don't have access to do peaceful protests, with stuff you don't agree with your government. You didn't have access really to make grievances to your legislator or your representatives. You didn't have none of that, right? Your aldermen, none of that because of COVID-19. And that's why I say it was all on purpose. It was all man-made and devised. It was an evil plan that was devised that worked almost perfectly for them in power. And I'm not talking about Democrat or Republican. I'm talking about the people that's in power. I'm talking about the people who wake up and devise evil plans, who live in sin willfully and gleefully. I'm talking about wickedness in high places. I'm talking about principalities and powers like the Bible speaks about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, this is not going to be a long one. Because I can do an update on this, right? Because I'm quite sure it's going to go further. And the thing about it is who's going to be held accountable? There's millions of people who have died because of COVID-19. There's millions of people probably struggling financially, socially, and physically from COVID-19. So who's going to be held accountable because we already know where it came from? Who was empowered to make that lab more safer so that wouldn't have happened? They're not going to be accountable for the mishandling of it. Listen, they either need to be accountable for the mishandling of that Wuhan lab and that gain of function research that was being done in there, or they need to be dealt with, not held accountable, but dealt with for the malicious intent of spreading that virus. It's either or. It's either or. Accountable or dealt with. To me, as many people as they killed, that virus killed. Let's just say that. Let's not even say they. Let's take they off the table. We don't know yet. But as many millions of thousands of people, right? Dear ones, loved ones, right? That virus killed. A war with the people that are responsible for that or dealing with the people harshly is worth the war that's going on in Ukraine. To me, my taxpayer dollars would be better spent finding out who's responsible, who needs to be held accountable, who needs to be dealt with because of that virus outbreak, that COVID-19 Communist Party, China Communist Party outbreak, virus outbreak, COVID-19. My taxpayer dollars, I would like to spend on knowing that. So whoever is in power, who may see this video, that's what I would like my taxpayers' dollars, my taxpaying dollars to go to. As a taxpayer, that's worth me standing behind, supporting. Because this did a lot of damage to Americans. And I'm not a Republican and I'm not a Democratic, and I believe both the Republicans, I believe Democrats, I believe liberals, I believe right wings, whatever they want to call themselves, all these people that's in power. There are people who are in power who go under the guise as politicians, right? There are people in the power under the guise of being politicians and leaders in this country who had knowledge. They knew beforehand that this virus was coming. And they did nothing. Remember, I said something about omission in the beginning of this video. This is Street Church. I'm going to lay it all out. They omitted. And some knew it was coming because they planned it. They were in cahoots. They were accomplices. And they should be on trial. Because here we can find out who was involved and who was accountable here, and we can hold them definitely accountable here. And listen, the ones that was, and I'm gonna tell you this too, this is how I feel. The people in power, the most outspoken about wearing masks and okay with lockdowns and stuff, the people who was trying to force that on you the most, those are the people that should be held accountable. There was somebody, I believe, on the Senate floor or in Congress or in the House of Representatives. I don't know his name, but I saw him on Fox News. He had the audacity to tell on the floor that Americans need to have their 2-year-old toddlers wear masks. Like they should be forced to wear the mask, and that the full weight of the federal government law enforcement agencies should be allowed to come down on them, to force that on their children, to force mask wearing on their children. This man said this, you know what I'm saying, during COVID-19, the outbreak. Where is he now? Is he ready to hold himself accountable for making a statement like that? That was egregious. That was terrible. That was just evil. And all it was a political ploy to seem righteous. But that's what happens when you got superficial leadership. There are some people who are not leaders. And when they become leaders, they'll always be superficial. Always be superficial. They will not do what they're led to do. They will only do they will not do what they're led to do. They will be led to do things. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference between a leader. A leader will be led to do what he's led to do. A superficial leader will be led by things that he's told to do, right? He'll be led by. He won't lead, ever. That's how you can tell when you have a true leader. That's what you know what? I'm going to cut that short because I don't want this to get striked, and I know YouTube is begging for a way to strike this. And right now I'm going to say this is for educational purposes. This entire video is for educational purposes. It's my opinion also. It's not facts, except for the part that they now know that 3 scientists were the first people to be infected with the COVID-19 virus. Everything else is just my opinion. It's my opinion around this heinous act of betrayal. I call it betrayal. It is. And there's evidence that people knew about this somewhere ahead of time, forehand, and did nothing. They let it come here because it was a way for them to be able to shut the government down, to shut cities down, to come in with executive orders, right? That was the control, right? An outbreak like this, once it was called an epidemic, they were able to individually in the local and state governments have executive orders over things, regulate things. And that regulation led to them being able to regulate the fairness or the unfairness, right, of the election in 2020 with Trump versus Biden. We know that. Come on. And it also did a lot of damage to the middle class. financially and socially. And it was their attempt. You can see the stuff that they were tearing down and destroying. If you need to know, during COVID, look at the stuff that they was tearing down and destroying. You know, the Antifa and the protesters of BLM and the people who were supposed to be protesting in the name of George Floyd. Look at the stuff that they were destroying and tearing down. The ideologies that they were tearing down. The people that they were confronting about masks. The people they were trying to alienate with masks and lockdowns. The executive orders that they executed during COVID. All of it shows you what they were attempting to do. Right? The bills that they were trying to pass during the lockdowns. The acts, the bills, the amendments, the things that they were doing. Think about it. Come on. This is street church. I'm going to lay it all out. But listen, there's not too much more I can say about it. I will read a scripture, though, because I like to come with scripture and just show you that the word of God talks about this type of evil. Look at this, Proverbs 6:14. I'm going to leave it here. It says, who with perversity in his heart continually devises evil, who spreads strife. That sums up everybody in power who was using COVID-19 for control and for power, for political gain, for economic gain and social gain. They were perverse with it. It was perverseness in their heart that they allowed this COVID-19 to do what it did in the United States of America. Continually devising evil. They did that all through the COVID outbreak. And they spread it much strife. Much strife. Proverbs 6:14. Listen, this is street church. I'm letting the congregation out. God bless.